know I'm big on respecting people's time, so let's go. Welcome to the Make Justice Healing Suicide Prevention Community Talk. We're gonna get started. I'm gonna make a couple introductions. We're gonna give some statistics and resources, and then we're gonna get into our conversation, y'all. Because guess what? September is Suicide Prevention Month, and it is a topic that is definitely needed, especially in the Black and Brown communities. It's very important. The goal here is to one, prevent. That's the main thing. We want to save today if we can, just through this community conversation. And then we also want to raise awareness and make sure that we honor those who have lost their battle, um, unfortunately, and have faced suicide. So we're going to intro. If you don't know me, if you do, I'm Tanya Moore, the founder of Make Justice Healing Incorporated. I am hosting tonight as the moderator. We are a 501c3 certified nonprofit organization serving youth and young adults who've experienced gun violence. Our mission is to provide holistic wellness support to underserved youth. We equip them with life skills, opportunities, and resources to heal, adapt, and thrive. Through community engagement, we also work to prevent youth violence by fostering resilience, empowerment, and positive alternatives. And yes, y'all see my cue cards. Don't play with me. Cue cards rolling. All right, I'm going to start with my introductions of my special guests, my partners, my family, people who support our organization. They are a part of the Make Justice Healing community. We're going to start with Ylonda Ray. She is a certified executive and personal coach. After transitioning for almost 30 years in leadership roles in the corporate environment, Ylonda has taken those transferable skills and experiences and built upon them in pursuing her passion of being a catalyst for continued growth and development, and you becoming the best vision and version of yourself as you create the life that you want. Y'all, welcome. Clap it up for Ylonda for me. Welcome, welcome,
Thank you.
welcome.
So wonderful to be here with you, girl. You know that.
Happy to have you. Thank you. All right. Our next special we have is Miss Gabrielle Deloatch. She is family. She's a community member. She's an advocate. She is a survivor. She is all the things. She is our special guest tonight that we will be interviewing. Miss Gabrielle Deloatch works as a financial analyst in the healthcare industry. She is a mother of three who lost her husband in 2012 to suicide. Welcome, Gabrielle. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation tonight.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So, I'm going to give a few quick statistics here, a couple snapshots, so people will understand what we're dealing with when we talk about suicide in our communities. Annually, nearly 50,000 people die by suicide. This is the latest statistic from the CDC. Daily, that averages to about 137 people per day, which is way too many. Hourly, minute, roughly one death every 11 minutes.
Wow.
Sad. Powerful statistics, and that just lets us know that this conversation is really that important. The youth impact, of course, I had to spotlight the youth because that is who our organization supports. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for ages 10 to 14, and the third leading cause of death for ages 15 to 24, y'all. We got to make sure we reaching our young people. Second leading cause of death is absolutely ridiculous when you think about it. When I was 10 years old, I was in the fifth grade, living my best life, enjoying myself. To think that someone that young is feeling so tough that they see no way out. We definitely got some work to do, y'all. I have one more introduction. Miss Tieara LeeAnn, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining the conversation. Tieara LeeAnn possesses skills that can help people break negative belief patterns, act more decisively, and set clear goals towards achieving what they want from life. Over the years, she has used her master's degree in social work to implement mental health through community outreach, life coaching, mentoring, skill building, and therapy. And yes, Miss Tieara LeeAnn is our certified therapist and our partner for Healing Incorporated. She is recognized for her ability to give proven results to individual, children, and families who seek to learn healthy coping skills to improve their lives. She has experience with working with clients who may have anxiety, depression, anger issues, and relationship problems. Welcome, Miss Tieara LeeAnn. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Tim. Thank you for having me, and thank you for spreading awareness surrounding, suicide prevention. And hello, the other ladies. I'm Tierra Leand. I don't know where I came in at, but I
No,
know
you
that this
good.
has been
You right
great.
on time. I was doing intros and going over statistics.
Okay.
So the next flow we're gonna go into, y'all, before we start our conversation, I would not be true to who I am if I didn't plug in some resources. Okay. So if there's anybody out there, anybody that you know, anybody listening in, if you are dealing with anything mental health related, suicide ideation, if you are struggling, there's a crisis lifeline you can call or text pound 988 for support, immediate support. There's also a crisis text line. You can text home to 741-741. NAMI helpline, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, 1-800-950-NAMI. And then we have some national local organizations, community organizations, the JED Foundation, JED, and then SAVE is another foundation, SAVE, Suicide Awareness Voices of Education. And I'll make sure that we drop these in the chat for those resources before we end this call. And then on our YouTube as well, we'll make sure we pin those resources there. So we will get started, y'all. I will be interviewing Miss Gabrielle is our main person for tonight, our special guest, but we also will have Tieara and Ylonda answer some questions for us as well. So I will get started with Gabrielle. Can you share what your experience was like as both a spouse and a parent navigating such a painful loss after losing your late husband to suicide?
In the beginning, it's like it almost like it really didn't happen. Like this, it just didn't feel real. It was like a million questions that needed answer that weren't going to get answered. There was like no explanation. There was no letter, no call, or anything to really explain like why it even occurred. So, and as a parent, it was the hardest thing I had to do was to tell my children, our kids, that their dad was no longer here. Um, just because you never know, you don't know the words. You never think that you'll be put into a position where you would have to have this conversation with your children. At that time, my two oldest were 12 and 11, and my baby girl was not even 2 years old at the time. So it's like trying to find the right words to say, but just being delicate with the situation as well, and just making sure that they were there and supported during that process of me having to you just go about our everyday life after that. And also too, it's just you just never know like how this may affect them down the road. Um, just having being put into that situation.
Understandable. And Gabrielle, I know that I wanted to take some time to honor anyone who has, especially in our chats, if you know anybody or if you've lost anyone to suicide, please put their name in the chat. We will be recognizing and honoring those victims to ensure that we just pay our respects because, we're going to get into some deeper conversation about like blaming victims and things like that. But if you know anybody or you've lost someone, please drop their name in the chat and we will for sure recognize them. Um, I failed to say that Gabrielle is truly family. So her late husband that she speaks of was my first cousin. And so we became family through their marriage, but we family regardless. And so I want to make sure that I allow her to give his name publicly. So if you want to, Gabrielle, feel free. You can take the time now to do that.
Yes, his name is Quentin Deloatch. And also, too, I just wanted to add, um, he was just also so much more than what his outcome was. Um, he was a coach. He to the youth. He coached football, basketball, to a lot of the kids in the community. He took the time out to read to the elementary kids. For him, he loved kids. Um, he was a son. He was a father. He was a cousin. He was a best friend. So, yes, he was so much more, and he was loved by so many people.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for saying that. He definitely was loved by many. And like Gabrielle, I think it was a total shock to all of us. And that is, one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation tonight, because I really want people to start thinking about suicide in a way of compassion. Being compassionate of others, being compassionate of the victims and families. And we just want to make sure that we provide a safe space. Anything that I do, I always want to make sure we're providing a safe space here. Um, Gabrielle, I'm going to ask you another question before we transition to Tieara. What role has therapy or counseling played for you and your children in the healing process?
Therapy was very essential for me and my children, right when it happened and currently till today. Because with grief, it never, goes away. It's just, you just learn how to cope, moving forward during that time and with the loss. So, um, just have even just struggling every day with just everyday issues in life. So on top of everybody has go through something in life, and well, they're down and out, feeling depressed, anxiety, or anything, like just sometimes even just having that grief on top of that, that just elevates everything to a next level. um During that time, while I was in therapy, um I was told that, after, just everything, just sharing just what I've been through with that and before then, that I have PTSD and, have some abandonment issues as well, just trying to cope with just having loss, in your life. So, yeah, it's just something that you just have to constantly work on.
I appreciate your honesty, Gabrielle, and I admire your strength. I want to pivot a little bit and pull Tieara into this conversation as a licensed therapist. Tieara, in your experience as a therapist, what are some, I would say, warning signs parents or loved ones look for in children or teens who may be struggling?
Thank you for asking me. My biggest one that I wanted to highlight is when a child is very standoffish and to themselves. I had a friend that called me a while ago, and she said that her son actually was planning to commit suicide. And one thing I noticed when I used to go over to her house, on Sundays, we would have this routine thing that we did. I would always notice that her son would always be in his room, and he would be isolated. You know, he would come out, but he was a man of a few words, you know. And I noticed in his behaviors, the way he was walking, the way he was talking, it just seemed like he was a little restless. So you have to pay attention sometimes to your kids' behavior and their warning signs. Like, you know, it's okay to acknowledge a kid for being quiet or just being a standoff person. However, when it becomes a habit and you notice that they are shutting off and emotionally you're not able to get through to them, I would say that that could definitely be a major warning sign when you start to see your loved one, not only just children, just anyone, be very, very isolated and not be open to sharing their emotions. So that would be one of the biggest things. And I will also say a lot of people are going down the road of addiction. Addiction is another one for kids and adults. You know, 1 out of 4 is experiencing some kind of drug or alcohol issue. So I would say be mindful with that, especially when you know you have somebody in your life that may be battling with substance abuse or you know any type of addiction that could be self-destructive. So pay attention to those warning signs and try your best to get your loved ones some type of help, or at least acknowledge the fact that you see that there's an issue and try your hardest to talk to them about it, and definitely recommend them to go and seek therapy.
Thank you for that, Tierra. Definitely therapy is a big help for all of us, even if you're not dealing with suicide or any type of mental health. It always helps to have some sort of safe space, whether it be a mentor, you know, a trusted family member, a trusted friend. And if you don't have that, you always have God that you can talk to, or whomever you believe in, for your higher power. If you're struggling, just try your best to get it out. To piggyback off of what Tierra said, I was reading something the other day that was very interesting to me, because I know with suicide we always reflect to mental health, but I was actually reading something the other day in a new study that suggests suicide being tied to the nervous system, and more so how that people can be in a battle with their nervous system, constantly attacking them, almost just like your brain does in a mental health type of space. And so they are studying that. So I wanted to ask you, Tierra, had you seen or heard or know of any further research on that, or anything you can add to that around like people dealing with nervous system conditions that end up committing suicide as well?
I haven't dug that research up recently, but I'm pretty sure that that is definitely a thing in the community, because our nervous system is, you know, connected to our emotional system, our, you know, behavior. So I could definitely see where those two is connected. That's why I always say seek therapy, but also get yourself checked out. You know, go to the doctors, get your wellness check, make sure that your body is functioning properly for
Mhm.
you. You know, a
Right.
lot of people go to the doctor with these symptoms and they allow the doctor to diagnose them and they just take it for, you know, face value. But I feel like
Mhm.
sometimes you have to pay attention to your own body in order to get the help that you need, you know? So, like I said, I won't touch too much on it, but I definitely can see how that is related to suicide.
Mhm.
Thank you. Definitely good information. Take care of yourself, y'all. Go to the doctor, get checked out. Yolanda, I want to pull you into the conversation as an executive life coach. I know you do a lot of work with single mothers and families dealing with generational trauma and things like that. Just would like to hear from you if you want to chime in to what we're already conversing on before I get into your first question.
Yeah, when you think of the executive personal coaching relationship, right? Coaching is designed to move you forward, right? To be an accountability partner, to help other, your clients achieve their goals. And so when that client comes in and they have specific goals that they want to achieve, um, one of the first questions I would during that the navigation in that conversation is, what are they? What goals do you want? What do you want to accomplish, right? Um, and the second would be, well, what's keeping you from doing it? And at times that's what you hear, generational dysfunction, generational negativity that they have just incorporated and brought forth into them raising their own children, and that those roadblocks from them achieving their own goals. um, First of all, to be aware that they do exist, right? This negativity or dysfunction, it does exist in my life, and I feel it's keeping me from reaching this specific goal or my overarching goal. And through navigation and and through the dialogue, finding out that yeah, it exists, be aware of it, acknowledge it, that it's real for them. This is real. You can't downplay what others experience and how it's impacting their lives. um, and then I would ask the question, and well, what is the ideal? What does it look like? Right? What does the ideal look? What does good look like? And now, when it comes to, you already said what's keeping you from doing it. Now, how do we develop? How do you develop healthy habits? How do you change it? How do you rewrite the narrative? And that's what the relationship will do in terms of having that client come up with, well, I can do this, I can do that. Because believe it or not, most people come in the coaching relationship, they know, right? Coaching is accountability, right? I'm more of an accountability partner. When you say you want to achieve these goals, then what are they? What's keeping it from you? And Tieara, if I hear that goal is bordering on pathological or something more than, like I said, moving you forward, because I mostly deal with healthy individuals, right? When it comes to not pathologic. But if I identify pathology, that's the first thing. Do you have a therapist, right, that you're working with? And give some recommendations of a therapist. This will, because it's really coaching maybe alongside with your therapy, because like I said, coaching, we're going to focus on that goal. What does he want to do? I had one client, she's like, I just want to become a better parent. What's keeping you from becoming a better parent? My mama. I said, well, what happened? Talk to me about that. She says, my mama, she yelled at me, she cussed at me, that's the way we were raised, and I do the same thing. I said, so what keeps you from not doing it? No, I asked her, I said, well, do you have a challenging child? No, my child is the sweetest, good grades. I said, so talk to me about it. What is keeping you from stopping that dysfunction, stopping the negativity? Me. Exactly. Right. So then, of course, we work through that dialogue. So what does ideal look like for you? I just don't want to, I don't want to holler at my baby. I don't want to cuss at my baby. I don't want to talk to him like that. Because right now, I don't have a good relationship with my mom because of that. So then we start breaking down, how do you eat this elephant? One bite at a time. What is something you can do, mom, to be a better parent? As you put it, that's your goal.
I'm glad you touched on
That's
that,
great.
Yolanda. I can dive in because parenting plays a huge role
Oh,
in a lot
massive.
of mental health. And if I could reiterate these statistics again, the second leading cause of death, suicide, is the second leading cause of death for ages 10 to 14. That is when you are in your parents' care.
Yeah.
Not to blame or place any fault, but I would love to raise awareness around that. It's also the third leading cause for ages 15 to 24, which, and when I, I'm a parent too. So this is not to poke at any, are a parent, something to think about, especially how you speak to your children, how you handle them with all the things they're already dealing with. Thinking about Gabrielle's conversation that we had, where you were talking about the generational trauma of suicide,
Mhm.
and mental health issues on both sides of the family, for your children. I wanted to ask you, um, I know we talked about therapy and counseling playing a role in the healing process for you all. Was there any, without getting too personal, any light shed on that through your therapy as far as like strategies or things that you could do as a parent, just in case we have any other parents out here that are dealing with generational mental health? Anything there that you would like to share, or any light shed in your sessions around that?
For me, like I've been around people battling in my family, battling mental health for like my whole life. So it's when you have kids and you start seeing certain things, like me already knowing what my children have been through. So I'm constantly listening and paying attention. Like if I see the mood change, especially with teenagers, like my older two at the time were just about to, hitting puberty and going to the teenage years and stuff like that. I know with my son, it was a struggle. Just him, not like my husband was the disciplinary, so me having to discipline this young man that's taller than me, that's thinking he's the man of the house, type of thing, and just realizing that there wasn't a whole lot of support for me out there. In the beginning, people say, I'm going to be there, if you need anything, like just give us a call or whatever. But, out of sight, out of mind, so it's kind of like, okay, as a parent, sometimes you have to put your own grief, fast forward the grief process so you can make sure they're good, to make sure they're excelling and putting their best foot forward in life. And me making those decisions by myself, like that was my partner, my best friend. So that was a person that I would go to, okay, so how are we going to tackle this, type of thing. Like, what should we do? This is coming up or whatever. So just having to make those decisions on my own, or just reaching out, calling my parents, calling, friends, just anybody, just to kind of get, just to get some type of insight. And also too, even with me joining support groups, like I was a part of a widow support group. I felt like they were the only people that really knew exactly like what I was going through, when it comes to just not really having a, big support system. And, even dealing with the blame game, that was like a big thing. We need somebody to blame for this. Who could we blame? Of course, let's blame the closest person to him. Like let's blame that person. She should have knew. She should, type of thing. Because she could have prevented it. So yeah. So just having just dialogue, and just with your kids, let them know, I'm here. I'm always here, for you. Like mama ain't going nowhere. Like if you need to talk, I'm always here to talk. Just spending time with them, just being a one-on-one time, just helping them talk through their issues, as much as possible. And just saying, okay, well, you, even with my older kids, I'm like, you may need to, go therapy on your own, it's okay, just having somebody just to talk to. Like you're not the only one that's going through this. It's like sometimes you may not feel comfortable talking to mom about certain things, but just always don't never feel like you're alone in the situation.
You said so many
So
powerful
many, so many
things.
powerful.
And you just dropped so many gems. I can't even like recap them. Like I'm gonna start with. I'm just sitting here listening. Like you just don't even know how many lives you are going to help today just through this conversation. It was powerful, but also disheartening to hear you as a mom have to say sometimes you got to put your grief on fast forward to show up for your children. Like that is so powerful, but as a mom, it's so disheartening because that doesn't even allow you time to process losing your spouse, but you still got to pick up the pieces because you got these kids depending on you. And I know there are so many mothers that can relate to that, especially mothers who have lost their children, their spouse, to suicide. I can only imagine the challenges as a parent trying to navigate through that. I was gonna ask you that too, Gabrielle. You said something else that stood out too about the blame and the guilt. Like I know we're talking about suicide prevention, but when you think about it, how much can you really prevent it when it becomes the choice of an individual? And
Right.
I believe in my heart, and this is just my belief, my statement, it's not a conscious choice. I do not believe in my heart that somebody wakes up in the morning and as a conscious human being says, that's it, I'm sick of it, I'm doing it right now, I'm done today, in your right mind. And that's just me. Because when you think about how our brains work, if you in your right mind gonna tell you like, no, thank you, we're not doing this today. So thinking about that and like the compassion, the prevention, the awareness that we're raising through this conversation, it's kind of like how much can you do? You can you can go to therapy, you can put your kids in therapy, you can pray, you can do meditation, you can do all these tangible things that we talk about, right? They sound so realistic, they sound so great. But when somebody is in crisis, and I mean serious crisis mode, they're not in their right mind to think about, let me stop and pray. Let me stop and meditate. This is what I believe. Let me do this practice that my therapist taught me to count to 20 and regulate my nervous system. If I could just speak for the victims for a moment and anybody out there that may be dealing with suicide ideation or mental health issues or anything that contributes to somebody getting to the point where they want to end their life, I think it's challenging for them to ask for help and support. When you think about it, imagine waking up not feeling your best, feeling like the world is against you, everything is wrong, and nothing is going right, and you just exhausted, right? You just done with it, with life. And you go to a hospital or you go to a trusted family member, friend, whatever, and say, for example, hey, I don't want to be here no more, or I want to harm myself. Clinically, the process, and I'm speaking from a personal experience. I know somebody who's gone through this experience, and I thank God that their life it was spared. They're still here, but they were dealing with suicide ideation, and they went to the hospital, and they said it was the most dehumanizing experience they ever went through in their life.
Mm.
Think about somebody seeking help and being treated like a prisoner of war, a criminal, stripped of everything. They want to shove medication down their throat, throw them in the room, and tell them they're crazy. This is a part of the problem when it should be the solution. And I wanted to bring that to the floor and allow you ladies to chime in on that. I don't know if any of you have personal experience, but I would love to have y'all input on just like how the support turns into devastation when this should be the safe place, and it ends up being a dehumanizing experience. That doesn't really make people feel comfortable to go into a clinical space and say, hey, I'm struggling. Tierra, I'll start with you.
My thing is, especially when it comes to people not having the best feelings when they wake up or the best feelings when it comes to their perspective on life. Um, on that end, I would say we have to all understand that we all are going to have bad days. No one can escape bad days. No one can escape challenges and just, life trials and tribulations. It's going to always be something, some type of adversity for one. So I want to first lead with saying like you're not alone. I think a lot of time when people get in those spaces, they tend to think like, why me, why me, why me, when it could be a neighbor or someone next to you going through something similar. And I feel like the more that you are able to articulate and speak out about what you're going through, that's the tribe of people that you may need in that season. Not saying you may need them,
Yeah.
longevity wise or in the future, but in that particular season, God will bring people to you. And this is aside from therapy. This is just real and me speaking from the heart and just me seeing and dealing with people over the years. And what I see a lot is people are not opening up enough, for one, and for two, it's not enough people that are giving grace and being patient and being kind with other people. So I feel like the world can do everybody a favor by just being kind. Like they say, it costs nothing to be kind. Kindness is free. So sometimes you have to be mindful of that because you never know what a person's going through. So even on your way out to work or wherever you go into church, just make sure you go the extra mile to acknowledge people, to make them feel seen, to make them feel heard, because you may not be able to help them clinically, but raising a spirit is a different thing. Have you ever been experiencing a bad day and God just bring like an angel to you and you just like, well, where did this come from? So it's real. It's a real thing. It's something that you definitely can experience. But I think the first step is for us to both, one, be patient with other people, be kind with other people. But two, as the person who is on the other side that may be experiencing some suicidal thoughts, for them to definitely feel comfortable to talk about it, not just with a professional, but just at least one person or someone that you can trust. Like, don't hold on or bottle up all of those emotions and not express that, because that's what's going to always cause the mental illness. That's what's going to cause everything to kind of get off track when you are full. I always tell people your mind is like a computer. You need to make sure that you're not getting spammed. You need to close some tabs. You know how you clear out your phone, you need to clean out them tabs,
Yes.
so you're able to bring in more
Yep.
information and
Mhm.
data, and you're able to collect more things when you are able to think clearly. So I would definitely highlight that. I will highlight people being more open, not just to professionals. I repeat this because I know that it is a stigma with having a therapist in our community, but I'm actually proud because therapy is growing right now. It's booming really, and I predicted this. I said 2025. I think a lot of Black people are going to start going to therapy, and it has been definitely right on the rise right now. So I am happy for that. But like I said, I always want to highlight the fact that you don't have to always talk to a professional. Just have that one person that you feel safe. And that's the key word, like safe. You have to feel safe to talk to them about the things that you are thinking and the things that you are experiencing sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that because God will bring you your tribe of people that can help you in that season.
Thank you, Tierra. That was actually going to be my next question to you, about some best practices to support someone. So yeah, right into what I was going to ask you. Thank you for those tips and those strategies. Definitely needed. And that spiritual side of things is so huge because people don't realize, and again, I always have to say this is my beliefs. Everybody can believe what they want, but we believe in God over here at Make Justice Healing, okay? That's what our foundation represents. And to be perfectly honest, I have always said when people deal with suicide, that's a demon on them. Because just like we give God and whoever you believe in as your higher power, we say the goodness of God, you got to remember that Lucifer was an angel. So the devil is real too. So when you're talking about spirits, there's good spirits, there's bad spirits. And unfortunately, sometimes when a demon get a hold of somebody and they can't get them off of them, sometimes unfortunately it does end in suicide. And I say that because I wholeheartedly believe that nobody in their conscious mind wants to truly end their life. They've lost all hope, and I will say this. They could be in the most supportive, safe spaces sometimes, y'all. Like they could have great friends. And I'm gonna say this because my cousin, that was my ace. That was my bestie. We are a year apart, a year and a day apart. We grew up like siblings. And when I think about it, surrounded by love, like Gabrielle spoke about community, football coach, he was doing all the right things, y'all. All the right things. Good father, doing the things he could do. Human, like all of us, we all make mistakes. But I would have nobody could have told me in 10,000 years of life that he would leave here that way. And so I brought that up because people do a great job at
Masking.
Masking. Mm-hmm.
it's an art, it's a skill,
Mm-hmm.
and people do it extremely well. And sometimes they don't even do it intentionally. They have developed this defense mechanism, which
Mm-hmm.
is their safe space of masking. So a lot of times you could be the safe space, the listening ear. And I'm saying this for anybody out there that may be dealing with guilt, because suicide brings all kind of emotions out. When you lose somebody to suicide, you deal with anger, you deal with guilt, you deal with blame, shame, sadness. I mean, every emotion on the emotional wheel that you could come up with. And I wanted to make sure that I brought this up because I know there's probably somebody out here who has lost someone to suicide and they may be feeling like, oh, why didn't I do this? Or it's my fault. Or I'm going to talk from personal experience. The first thing I said was, why he ain't called me?
Yeah, yeah.
Took it personal. I was like, I just talked to him the other day. He was good. We was laughing. We was joking like always. I was so mad at him, y'all. I was so mad because my cousin told me everything. If there was a human Pandora box, I was his human Pandora, like our secrets. I kept them. I kept his secrets. So I could not believe that he didn't call me, and I took it personal. And I'm sharing that because I know somebody has is either dealing with that now or has gone through that. It's not about you. And I want to
Yeah.
make that clear. When suicide happens, it's not about you. It's not about the why. It's an eye opener for us to say, can we do anything different to prevent this happening to someone else?
I got
Yeah.
another point too, Tan, that I want to real quickly share.
Okay.
Uh, it's so crazy that we're doing this actually because I never share this, and I think it's something that my family they should definitely promote, but for some reason they don't. But I had an uncle in 2020. He committed suicide. He jumped off a building and killed himself. And still to this day, a lot of my family they're in denial about him doing that. So they came up with the excuse of him being somebody, may have pushed him or gave him something and laced his drink or laced some weed or whatever. They came up with all these different scenarios that I found to be very interesting because my uncle had a mental illness. When I was
Yeah.
younger, he was in a psych ward. But this is actually one of my favorite uncles. And it's so crazy because this is before I became a therapist. I always felt a connection with him just because. I don't know. I empathize and I sympathize with him because it seemed like a lot of people was just passing him along and passing him up because he had mental illness. So people didn't take the time out to educate themselves on some of the diagnoses that he had. So I just want to highlight that too. That's on my spirit. When you have people in your life that may have these diagnoses, whether it's consider a minor diagnosis like anxiety, depression, or bipolar, manic, whatever it is, take some time to really do your research because some of the side effects to some of the medication or
Yeah.
just some of the
Yeah.
symptoms period in their behavior can be suicide. They will
Yeah.
always have suicidal ideation
Mm-hmm.
based off of their diagnosis and the way that they are wired.
Got you.
You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I feel like
Well,
a lot of
some of it
things.
is chemical. That's why some
Right,
of it is
right. A
definitely
lot of
chemical,
things can
right?
be prevented
Mm-hmm.
if we have more support surrounding the mental health part of it and knowing how to deal with a person with mental illness. That's
Yeah.
key because it is tough. It's very hard. It is challenging and it will test your patience, but if you love someone, you want to take the time out to really educate yourself and to understand them. And I always tell people lead with understanding because you never know what it is that a person may need from you and what you may need from them because it may look different. To you, you may look at a person like, okay, what can you tell me or what can you teach me? But before my uncle passed away, I've always been the child where I like to collect wisdom. I will always be up talking in the grown folks' face, asking them questions, but it was more so a positive conversation, just advice. I'm the only child. I didn't grow up with sisters or brothers, so a lot of the things that I was taught is just me collecting information from my older aunties and uncles and stuff like that. So what made him exempt? The same advice I got from my successful uncle that had, the houses and cars and all that. That's, I can still accept some advice from my uncle who may be struggling and in this moment right now needs somebody. So one of the main things that he told me before he passed away, before that incident happened, he always said to keep a sober mind. That's always replay in my head all the time.
Wow.
And that's the best advice. Like
Yeah.
that was a huge one. So
For bringing light
yeah,
to that,
And how
Tia.
you do? Yeah. How do you keep that sober mind? Absolutely.
yeah. He just said to keep a sober mind, and I think the reason why he highlighted that and he was able to give me that message is because his mental illness spiraled from somebody putting something in his drink when he was
Wow.
younger. So ever
Mm.
since then, he wasn't the same. He would go out. Everybody said he would dress nice and have a job, nice cars, and all that stuff. But one day he went out and he was drinking and it was said that somebody put something in his drink. So that was his advice, and I
Wow.
feel like that was some great advice, and I love my uncle for that, and I never overlooked him no matter what. And it is sad and a tragedy that he decided to end his life because in my mind I know that he probably did that to himself. I'm not going to lie to myself and say, oh well, it was this or it was that when I know that he had some mental problems that he was battling with and he didn't have the most support. And I used to tell my family all the time, educate yourself, get to know him. You don't know what he been through, you don't know what he may need in this moment. Just love on him.
Yeah. And the
That's
Yeah.
conversations like this is what's going to change that culturally. Like, so they put on the mask culturally, right?
Yeah.
It's just unacceptable. And I just like to commend Gabrielle for just saying, I'm aware, being aware,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to raising those children. I teach a parenting class, and that's that self-awareness and giving your children space to be. If it ain't me, baby, talk to somebody,
Yes,
right? And
yes.
understanding what loving, nurturing parenting looks like. and giving them that space and treating them as people
Yes.
with their own ideas, emotions. Emotions are made to be expressed. And we
Mhm.
have to teach our children to how to express them responsibly, right? Don't
Mhm.
hurt yourself, don't hurt other people, and don't hurt the environment. But emotions are made to be expressed. Don't keep that stuff in because it implodes. And I just want to commend you for being aware and keeping your antenna up and creating that space for your babies to flourish because you want to keep your
Yeah.
eye on it. And that's what nurturing parenting is, right? I'm here, I'm aware, taking care of yourself first, because you're supposed to put on your, like in the airplane, right? You put on your face thing mask first, and
Mhm.
then you help other people.
Yes.
So just commend you, but take time for yourself. With I know sometimes we do have to fast forward as parents, but you got to sit in that space and pause and take care of you.
Oh
You
yeah, because
got
it will
to.
sneak up on you out of
Absolutely.
nowhere
No,
and
out
it'll
of
break you
nowhere.
down.
And you are no good for nobody. So
Exactly.
take time for you. Take that time. What does it look like? It's called you getting your needs met in order for you to meet the needs of your children. And I just want to commend you on that one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yolanda. I was actually going to ask you another. Your last question was about how families can create safe spaces for open communication between parents and children, to not only help prevent suicide, but just to foster
Just in
resilience.
general.
Yeah,
And that's it. That's it. Awareness, taking care of yourself, being aware, paying attention, treating children as they are beings, little beings, teenage beings. They have thoughts, they have ideas, they have emotions. Don't overlook them. And then when you do, give them that space. Hey, baby, if it ain't me you talk to, I want you to talk to somebody. So
Mhm.
you surround them with people in their lives who you trust and they can go to. That's creating their village. We help create our children's village, right? And then the parents, you give them modalities. Okay, so now what does nurturing parenting look like? When you feel like hollering at them or cussing at them, pause. Just pause.
take a breather.
Now, how can I send this message of healing and love to my child as opposed to hurt and demoralization?
Great
Right? Because
advice.
you remember how it made you feel, right?
Mhm.
When your mama cussed at you or hollered at you don't want to convey that to your child. So I tell parents all the time, just think about how it made you feel. You say you want to be a better parent because the class I facilitate is all voluntary. People would be there. They're there because they want to be there. They
Mhm.
want to be better parents. Think about how you feel. Stop that generational curse right there in its tracks, because the one thing we do have command is how we respond to anything. That's our agency. You can't say somebody made me do it. No, you decided to do it consciously or unconsciously, but usually consciously. What gets me is when people say, "Oh, somebody made me do it. I didn't." So you try to tell me you have zero control. You have no control of your emotions, zero. Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. No, that's exactly what you're saying. You
Mhm.
can pause and be intentional about it and be consistent, creating that environment, being aware, and letting those babies know that. And when I say babies, I'm talking about from my oldest is 50. So from young, I'm still,
Wait a minute. What? Wait a minute. No, ain't no way.
yeah, my oldest is 50. So it's like they're always there, creating that space for them to know I love you. And this is what it looks like, being consistent. And I just can't say enough about you taking care of you so you can take care of them. Listening, being there, and creating that space. I know we be tired. I raised four. You be tired. I know. But you know what? You still got to step back and take time for you. That's how
That's
you
so good, Yolanda. That is great advice to all of our parents out here. Even us parents parenting grown
grown people.
adults
You
now.
still parenting them.
Yes.
Yeah, I always say you have an obligation until the day you leave this
Until
earth
you leave this earth. Yeah.
parent your children. I really believe that as they become adults, God charges us with wisdom to
Yeah.
share wisdom with them. We're no longer chastising and parenting them like in a kid space, but we are obligated
Yeah.
to give wisdom, to give advice, to show up for them, to be supportive. it never stops. And I say that
Right.
because so many kids unfortunately lose their parents,
Yeah.
to violence, to suicide, to different things. And it's unfortunate because you never stop needing your parents.
Mhm.
At this
You
big
don't.
age,
You
whatever
don't.
age you're at, as long as they're here is a blessing, but you never stop needing them. You
You never stop. I'm
always,
going to share something with you. At my age in the 60s, right? I always think about my mom used to always end everything with, I love you more. And when she died in 2017, my first thought was, well, who's going to tell me I love you more now?
wow.
Because I don't get it no more, right? But I looked forward to that, and I still look forward to it. So you are absolutely right, Tan. You don't ever stop loving or missing a nurturing, loving parent, right?
Yeah.
You know, let me hear from you,
Yeah.
a nurturing, loving parent,
That's the
right?
exception to the rule. We
Let
got
me
good
let,
parents
let me
over
qualify
here.
that one, right? Let me qualify that one.
Nah, that's the caveat to it. Cause I'm gonna tell you what now, parent toxic. You gotta choose your peace.
Yes.
It's because we talking about mental health and community and support and love. So sometimes you gotta take a step back if there's anybody out there
Pause.
with
Pause.
toxic
Yeah.
parents. Take a
Mhm.
breather. I'm not saying you ever dispose forever, but sometimes you do have to
You have
take
to
a step
pause.
back and
Mhm.
choose your peace
Yeah.
and choose your healing, because sometimes God will remove you out of that space with your parents to go and heal so that you can come back and
Hmm.
show up in forgiveness and show up in grace and show up in empathy. You know what I mean? And show up in a different way. And anybody out there, if you never get the apology that you were looking for from your parent, just know that your healing is not contingent upon someone else's apology.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Exactly. Because what we have a tendency to do, the parent that we need, we project onto people who do not have the capacity.
Yeah.
If they didn't have the capacity when you were 2, they only got the capacity when you were 40. When you were 40, they
Exactly.
just don't have it. I have a short example. One girl said, my mom, she didn't raise me because she was taken from her mom, and she had a 40th birthday party. She said my mom didn't show up. I said, so, okay, so what's different from when you were 5?
Wow.
She never showed up. She didn't show when you were 5, 10, 15, 20. So why? It's not even fair for you to project onto this woman who birthed you an ideal that she doesn't have. She's not even qualified to feel.
Wow.
So I need you to let that go,
That's
right?
so true. So true.
let,
That
let
is
that
so
go, because she's
powerful.
not. It's not even fair. It's not even fair to you or her. Accept her where the person is, and then just like you said, sometimes you have to compartmentalize. I love you, but I need to put you over here and love you when along on my terms, and that's
Yeah.
what I found out.
To
Yes. And
piggyback
to
off that,
piggyback off of
oh, go
what you
ahead.
said, like with even when I talk to my kids, even though I am a parent, I'm human still,
Yeah.
so, and you just have to always remember to extend that grace, because sometimes when we're younger, we kind of put our parents on a pedestal, type of thing. And then as you get older, you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
like, oh,
They flawed too.
yeah, they're flawed too.
They're
So, yeah.
flawed too. My daughter told me once, she said, "Oh, I didn't realize till I was grown that you were actually human." And she wasn't saying it to be mean,
Mhm.
because in parent, you be in parent mode. But as they've gotten older, my baby is 30. And so now I can talk to them differently.
Mhm.
But they do see you as this big, grandiose person or entity, and I think some of that is where the things go wrong, where they feel like they can't connect with you.
I wanted to piggyback off that to say one word that has been one of my greatest teachers in life: acceptance.
Yes.
Mhm.
You have to get to a place in life where you learn acceptance of all things. The serenity prayer is always my go-to, because you only control you. You're
That's
only in
it.
control of you. You are not in control of your children, your parents. I mean, we all think the best of our children, but when they go out of our doors, all we can do is pray and hope for the best
Yes,
because
yes.
they're gonna make their own decisions. So acceptance, I would say, even as we get ready to close out this conversation and this community talk around suicide prevention, acceptance. It's not
Mhm.
your fault. It's not about you. It's unfortunate that people lose hope and feel like that's the only way out of their suffering, their pain, whatever it is they're dealing with. But we have to get to a place of acceptance to get to our place of healing. One of the reasons why my organization is called Make Justice Healing, it's a whole movement. You make your justice through healing, no matter what you're dealing with that needs to be justified. When you think about the root word justice, not just in the sense of a courthouse, justifiable justice. It starts with your healing, and you can only start healing with acceptance. Somebody mentioned self-awareness. That's the um your healing journey. You got to be self-aware that there's something that needs to be healed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're struggling out there, again, I'm going to plug some of these resources on our YouTube for anybody who wants to catch the replay. I'll make sure that these resources are in the chat, but I'll plug a quick one. Pound 988 is the quickest one. If anybody out there is struggling or dealing with anything, um, I want to first thank you, ladies, for participating in this conversation. And I'm gonna do a quick last round robin. Our last round robin is I'm charging each person to say a name of someone they know or have lost to suicide. And then I'll take the names out the chat and say those out loud. So I'll start with me. I would like to honor and say the name of Isoki White, who lost her battle to mental health last month in August. She was 24 years old, very creative, college grad, all the things. And unfortunately, she is no longer here with us. I want to honor her and say her name. Gabrielle, I'll let you go next.
Quentin Deloatch. Like I said, he was a great father. He was very involved in his community, loved to work with children, loved to work with the youth. Um, just life of the party.
Ylonda.
I say Yavin Israel, who is my adopted little brother, shooting star, absolute genius, creative, gone definitely too soon.
And Miss Tieara.
I would say Keith Wright, my loving uncle, who was definitely one of the people who taught me some of the things that I didn't know at a young age as far as streetwise. He was just funny, very outgoing, loved fashion, loved laughing and enjoying himself and dancing and stuff. I do miss dancing with him, so yeah.
All right, I'm going to refer to the chat. Demarion McGee from Two Tone Cash says, rest in peace to my brother. Dancing with Chef, the name she dropped was Capo, her son's best friend. He was 21 years old. Anybody else have any names that you want to honor tonight that have lost their battle and unfortunately left us to suicide? I'm checking the chat on Instagram just to make sure I don't leave anybody out. If you are on Instagram and want to drop a name, feel free to, and we will honor them and say their name. And while I'm checking the chat on Instagram, do you ladies have any closing remarks?
Mine would be to participate, right? If you know there, as you endeavor to be the best version of yourself, and you have a plan for you, right? You know what healing looks like. You got to participate in the process. You got to be committed to it. Or if not, you just betraying your own self. So participate in the process. whatever that healing or going after that goal looks like, participate and be intentional about participating.
Mm-hmm.
Eating that elephant one bite at a time. You got to participate.
Tieara, did you have something?
My words of encouragement tonight is just keep going, and don't look back. Don't allow your past to define your future. You know, we all been through, like I said, trials and tribulations. We have childhood trauma. We have things that, we may not have been able to get over, but we can get past it. So just keep going and understand that every day won't be a good day. But you are not alone. We all have bad days. So don't feel like it's just you in it by yourself. And thank you, Tam, for this beautiful organization. I love what you're doing. I love that we're able to be on this platform to, you know, back you up and support you. Keep doing this because I feel like a lot of people need it. And if you are looking for a therapist, my doors is always open. You can follow me, Tieara LeeAnn. You can contact me, Tieara LeeAnn. If you Google me, anything will come up with appointment based. Whether you want to just look at some content surrounding motivation, sometimes we lack motivation. It may not even be that serious for you to do therapy, but I'm here. I am a vessel for positivity, mental health, and just bringing love and motivation to any room I walk in, whether it's physically, virtually, whatever. I'm here.
Thank you, Tierra, and thank you for dropping that information. We will also make sure on the YouTube channel that we put information on there for resources as well, so you guys can reach out to Tierra. She is locally based here in Atlanta, but as she said, she does show up virtually for clients as well. So you do not have to live in Atlanta to receive services.
And I do accept insurance: Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, Cigna, Georgia Medicaid, and I think that's it. But yeah, I accept insurance.
Y'all, that's it. Y'all got it. So there's no excuse out here to not get your mental health if you need it. We got a therapist right here.
Changing that story, changing the narrative. I love it.
And Miss Gabrielle, any closing remarks for you? Any words of wisdom or anything you want to leave with the audience tonight?
Um, as a spouse that has lost their spouse, I would say, um, you got this. I know you feel like you may be in it on your own, but you got this. And just always remember to just take the time for yourself so you could be there, especially if you're a parent, to be there for your babies, and also as a parent, just be there for your kids, and just be aware of what they're going through, and just always be there, for them to lean on.
That's good advice. Any advice in the chat? Anybody have anything, any last words you want to leave? Feel free to drop it in the chat. My sister on Instagram dropped a comment. Uh, Quinny Man, that's what we call our cousin Quentin Q. He had a whole lot of nicknames, but the family members, it was and will always be Quinny Man. So yeah, she said we miss you, cuz we definitely do. It is not a day that goes by that I don't think of him, or sometimes wonder like, man, I've been in Atlanta all this time. My cousin would be out here with me, turned up. Gabrielle will probably be fussing them out. And he gonna be out here outside somewhere with me. I'm the cousin bitch slash sister being the bad influence. But I would say my closing words, thank you everyone for joining this community talk. As a foundation, we are actually working to host these monthly, to have people on, to have these difficult conversations that most of you know in the Black and brown community, we can't have them enough, y'all. And it's so taboo, it's so danced around, and we really just need to start having some real open conversations. And I know that God blessed me with this foundation to give platforms for people to come on and share, to provide a safe space for people. I used to sit at a lot of tables. I mentioned earlier, I was laughing saying I'm usually the one getting interviewed, but I actually love doing this because I know it's a part of my purpose to provide a platform for other people who may not otherwise have somewhere to come on and have an outlet to share their stories. I share with Gabrielle, like, your story is going to change and impact and save so many lives. I'm sure there are so many mothers and fathers who are spouses out there that are parenting alone now, that they need to hear this message. They need to know that there's hope. They need to know that there's still life, after losing a spouse to suicide. They still need to know, hey, as a parent, you got to show up, all the things. So my hope here is that we saved a life tonight. My hope is that the resources we provided, someone will use it if they need it, and just to show up for the community as much as possible, to talk about things that people don't really talk about. There's a lot of people with microphones right now that's talking about a lot of nothing. And my goal is to make sure we talking about something
Something.
matters to our young people, because honestly, y'all, when I was looking over those statistics, I was alarmed because I was not aware until I started preparing for this call. And I think that's the huge thing around awareness. I bet if we surveyed a group of parents, they have no idea that this is the second leading cause of the death of their kids that's probably in this age group, because nobody's really talking about it. We need to talk numbers so that people understand the impact of what we're dealing with. So, as much as I can be a vessel, if anybody's on here that has a topic or something that you feel will service the community that you want to have impact around, hit me up, send me a DM. We are Make Justice Healing on all platforms. Make Justice Healing on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Our email is info@makejusticehealing.org. Feel free to reach out if you know anybody dealing with any type of gun violence, community violence. That's what we are here for, to support our youth and young adults, and also the families dealing with that. So I just want to close out with, I hope everyone got something out of this conversation. I hope everyone feels supported and loved in the spaces that I provide and show up in. And reach out to me if you need somebody to talk to. I am always a listening ear. So if all else fails and you have absolutely nobody, you can find me. Make Justice Healing on everything. I appreciate everybody for hopping on. Want to be respectful of your time. We got started a little late because of our technical issues, but thank you everyone for joining. This recording will be posted on our YouTube channel, on my personal Facebook page, and I'll figure out a way to get it on the Make Justice Healing Instagram page too, but it'll be out there. But thank you, ladies, for your time. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your knowledge and expertise. Gabrielle, shout out to you. On here sharing your
Thank
story
you.
and speaking up in the community, because we need you and I appreciate you and I love you. And if I can support you in any way, I know I can do a better job, but I am always here as the cousin sister for you and your game. I'm
Thank
our
you.
biggest cheerleader always.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Good night, everyone.